Oh, she's sweet but a psycho, a little bit psycho. At night she's screaming, I'm on my mind. Oh, she's hot but a psycho, so left but she's right though. At night she's screaming, I'm on my mind. She'll make you curse, but she a blessing. She'll rip your shirt within a second. You'll be coming back for seconds with your play. You just can't help it. No, you'll play along. Let her lead you on. You'll be saying no, then saying yes, 'cause you're messing with your head. Oh, she's sweet but a psycho, a little bit psycho. At night she's screaming, my mind. Oh, she's hot but a psycho, so left but she's right though. At night she's screaming, my
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What Do You Say Anime. I'm your host, Peter. On today's episode, we are discussing the 1998 movie Perfect Blue. Joining me from Watch Club, first we have Haz. Haz, how's it going today?
I shouldn't have watched this movie. I'm not gonna be able to sleep right tonight.
All right, fantastic. That's great news. Next, joining us, Happy. Happy, how's it going today?
I agree with Haz. I should not have watched this movie.
Well, Haz and Happy are pretty distraught over it. Well, hopefully Johnny's doing better. Johnny, how are you doing today?
Well, you know me, I don't get scared, and plus my sleep schedule is already fucked up, so, I mean, like, what happens, happens.
All right, right on. And our first moderator of the night, Miles. Miles, how's it going?
I am Mima's complete lack of surprise.
Nice. And our second moderator of the night is Pat. Pat, how's it going?
Good. Yeah, hello everybody. There is an imposter among us, and I think Pink is looking kind of sus.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, thank you. I'm proud of that one. That was a good joke, right? So now we can transition right away, flawlessly, into our first impressions of this movie. Like Pete said, it's our oldest show we've covered in Watch Club by far. It's 1997, I believe, was the year.
Yeah, it was like mass released in 98.
There you go. Yeah, so it was like winter 1997. So who knows what that meant? Yeah, exactly. So and it's also our second movie though that we're covering. We did A Girl Who Left Through Time first, and now we are covering Perfect Blue. So why don't we get our first impressions? Miles, you are at the top of my list, so why don't you start us off?
Sure.
Spoiler free, by the way, just so anyone who's listening.
Yeah. So this movie is like an absolute psychological thriller trip and a half. So if you want a movie that sort of keeps you at the edge of your seat, wondering what's happening, throwing you curveball after curveball, just like hitting you with fish, and those fish are red herrings, then this movie is for you. I thought it was absolutely. I don't know. I've done nothing but think about this movie since I've watched it, and that's how I'll end my statement.
Yeah, there you go. That's I mean, whether that's good or bad, that's up for debate, but it definitely does keep you thinking about it after the movie. I can agree. I was in the same boat. Haz, what about you? What have you got for us?
Yeah, so when I
Perfect timing, as always. You can't control outside people, right? That's the worst.
Can't control, and you know what you can't control? You can hope they close the door when they leave your room, right? Anyways,
It's a nice sick maneuver there, I gotta
thank
say.
you. Professional podcast, right?
Nice kick.
Thank you. I took Taekwondo. Anyways, the movie. This movie, when I said I was gonna stay up tonight, not because I was scared. I've seen worse. I saw worse earlier tonight. In terms of scaredness, I'm very confused, and I feel stupider than I've ever felt before. I don't know what's going on, but that's the beauty of it, because there's the I don't know what's going on, and I don't really give a fuck. I'm just not gonna take the time. But this one makes me want to take the time. And that's scary, and that hurts. It hurts a lot.
Yeah, no, I think I get what you're saying. I'm the more I listen, the more I'm glad I wasn't here for our little or for the majority of the 2 hours. It sounds like that you guys were talking about this before our show tonight. So that was Again, it sounds like it's a good thing that I wasn't here, because otherwise I'd be in the same boat as you. Happy, what have you got for us? What's your recommendation as well? Do you recommend it? First impressions.
Uh, so so I watched this movie, and from a visual standpoint, it's very impressive. From a plot standpoint, it's very intriguing and a bit confusing. But oh boy, did it make me uncomfortable, and I don't want to watch it again. And yeah, do I recommend it? No.
No, really. Okay, fair enough. The feeling of uncomfort is is a very familiar as from that movie. I gotta say the entire movie you were just sitting there, and I don't know if you can't handle it, which I'm not saying you can't, but if in general you can't handle something like that, then I don't think this movie's for you, and I can definitely agree with you with that. Johnny, what about you? What have you got?
Yeah, I'm just a fucking lunatic, but I guess I just wasn't sensitive to this kind of thing at all. I kind of just like, I saw the fucked up stuff that was going on. I'm like, okay, this is where this movie's going. All right, I see how it is.
Wow,
But
Johnny's a big boy. Good for
yeah,
you.
I'm a big boy. Don't call me 12 years old. Okay, anyways.
13. Sorry.
God damn.
Anyways,
Okay, so
sorry. My bad.
going into this, like, like this isn't like the type of show that I would like watch by myself, like not at all. But like, I went into it like it was better than I thought it would be. Honestly, I actually was kind of attached to the characters by the end of it. So yeah, I say it was like pretty good.
Cool.
I
Well,
didn't lose sleep because of it though. Like unlike a lot of you, I feel like.
well, most of us haven't lost sleep from it yet because we haven't slept since we've watched it. But fair enough.
I think that's just you
No. I actually have slept since I watched it, so I'm feeling good
for
about
True.
like
it.
10 minutes.
Yeah, no, it doesn't count. But yeah, that I I don't know what else to say. Johnny's tougher than all of us, I guess. All of us
I
old
don't feel
men.
emotions.
Good for you. Someday maybe that'll change. Pete, what have you got?
Man, I love like thriller, whodunit, like conspiracy theories based off this. We were in Discord for 2 hours talking about it. I changed my mind about 7 times on what I thought about this movie. Not in terms of like what I would rate it, but like just in terms of there's just so many questions that they leave unanswered on purpose, I think, and leaves it up to interpretation. And would I recommend this? Absolutely. I would absolutely recommend this movie to almost anybody. Maybe if you're like 15 or older. Man, this was a great film.
Yeah, so I'm gonna echo a lot of what Pete said. First off, I absolutely do recommend it. I really, really enjoyed it all throughout. The entire time I was just on the edge of my seat wanting to find out what happens next. There are things that frustrated me during the movie, but in general, I don't think there's ever been a movie that's captivated me as much as this one did. Uh it's a very good critique of idol culture, and again, the suspense throughout and the thriller aspect is just so captivating. I again, it was just mind-boggling how invested I was in this movie, and there are a lot of different things that it does extremely well, and there is a lot of things that it doesn't do very well. So, Miles, why don't you start us off? Because I know you wanted to talk about the juxtaposition between general plot points and things going on with the character's personal life. So first off, spoilers going forward are are you know our game. So please, if you have not seen the movie yet, watch it yourself first before listening. And also, there are some very sensitive subjects covered in this movie. So if you are triggered by anything such as rape, sexual assault, murder, or anything along those lines, this is probably not the episode for you. So please be careful going forward. Thank you. So trigger warnings out of the way. Go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, so there's a few little things that I want to get through quickly that I just thought were really well constructed about the show. I think the plan for tonight is to primarily discuss the plot and how each of us interpreted what happened. Um, but one thing that I wanted to talk about was how well the show juxtaposes cuts to bring themes forward. like one thing that Johnny had said was that he actually felt something for the characters towards the end. And I think the juxtaposition shots of um, Mima at the beginning, with her like everyday mundane life and her idol career, um, are like a big reasons for that, because they don't have any exposition and stuff, but it really establishes who she is as a person. So, you see her doing the whole like song and dance that is the idol thing, but then you also see her buying milk and feeding her neon tetras, and her room is filled with things. She has stuffed animals. She has a PlayStation. Um, like she is a fleshed out person, and we don't know everything about her yet. But in my opinion, it made her seem very real. Um, there is a scene that we will get to later that does juxtaposition very well, that I know Pete is very excited to talk about. Um, but are there any moments like that, like where you're contrasting, or like the show contrasts two different things with each other, that anyone else noticed or liked, throughout, I guess, just the whole series of this show?
What do you mean by like contrasting? By like
Yeah, so like I guess my example would be like, I mean, the beginning, right, where it shows the very glamorous side of idol life, and then it cuts to like the solitude, the loneliness, the issues that come with it and stuff in between these shots. And it does that, for a lot of things, sort of throughout the movie. Where, for example, I guess like another example I can give of this is, there's like a deconstruction of fan service in anime during the rape scene, where and it's not an actual rape scene. It's her filming a rape scene in a movie, and so uh, the the actors are all pretty uncomfortable with the scene. You can tell that like during the pauses and stuff. During um, the shots, when it's not, you see like two views of it. There's shots from the camera's perspective, which are all sort of like gratuitous and sexualized, and then there are shots outside from like, I guess, the movie's perspective, which are all sort of uh, horrific. Honestly, like it's viewing it as like a very dark thing. So like the cutting between those two different points of view helps the movie say what it wants to about that fan service. Johnny, you have something to say about this?
Oh yeah. So like I said, like how like I actually felt something about the characters, and I think one of the reasons for that is that like they're depicted as real people, because a lot of times like like these idols, like they're seen as like something beyond human, which like a lot of people view them as that, like they see them as like the perfect human, and then you see like they're just like normal people. This is just their job. Like you see like Mima like goes through her struggles with life, like things like that. So that's what made me like actually feel like some sort of emotional attachment with the characters, since that's the big deal with me when it comes to like watching shows in general. I want to be attached to the characters, so that things that happen to them, like I actually feel something for them.
Yeah, I guess I was kind of hoping that we didn't get right into this scene because it's my favorite. It sounds weird saying it's my favorite scene in the movie, but it is. Because
SAO fan, so
there you go, you got me there. No, this scene is extremely well done. Like again, it's the highlight of the movie for me because um well, just to put it bluntly, the rape, her rape in that, which of course again this was her pretending it was for the movie, but her coming from her idol background, a scene like this is jarring for any actor, but especially for someone who's coming from an idol background. It is a completely different um task for them to partake in, and the fact that that rape scene symbolized like the rape and death of her idol character, not only in the eyes of the public but then also in the eyes of her name's Rumi, right? Her manager, her former idol mentor, and everything else. That was when she snapped. That she breaks out of the room crying and uh literally snaps as well. I would say with her dissociative identity disorder as well. So I thought that this scene was so well done because if for one it depicts the horror of rape because it is not comfortable. The acting, the screaming was just it really made you uncomfortable watching it, which is what it was supposed to do. But it also symbolized so much more, such as again the destruction, the complete, because she does a scene like that, there is no going back to her idol career. There's just it already would have been tough because she quit to be an actor, or actress, but with a scene like this on her resume, and it really symbolized the death and of her idol and like that persona. And I thought that was just again stunningly done. I don't know if anyone else had thoughts about that.
That's a good point. I honestly didn't even think of it that way, but that makes a lot of sense. And I think there's like a scene that kind of shows that, because you see her when she leaves the group and she's in the office, and her Ray and I forgot the other girl's name are celebrating because the idol group that she was in before is now charting. Like they're now successful after that she left, and she gets approached that she's Rumi says like, hey, the next scene you're going to do is really like risque. Like, are you sure you want to do it? That type of thing. And she's like, yeah, I'll do my best. She does the scene, and then she's at home. She's in her tub, like kind of crying and sad. And she's like, I think the exact quote was like, bastards, I didn't want to do that scene. And it really shows like she wants to be like the actress, but like she's getting pushed around, and it's not the person that she used to be. She's no longer this cute idol. She's now being in rape scenes in TV show, or I guess in a movie. So it's just like it completely changes her character in like a matter of like 7 minutes.
Right. And I think the actual the quote, like she calls him a bastard, but she even is sitting there like, of course I didn't want to do that scene. Like I think she says that as well. Which who knows? Was that actually her, or was that Rumi thinking that as her, as the idol version of her? Who know? Sorry, don't mean to cast doubt into your heads there. I think it was actually her though, because what kind of actress actually wants to be put into situations like that? But yeah, so Happy, you've got something to say. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so with that scene, and it wasn't just that she had to do that particular scene, she also had to do like photo shoots and whatnot. And I will give credit where it's due. It does a very good job at making you feel uncomfortable and uneasy and all that, but that's one of the big things I really didn't like in the film. It just made me feel really
Did you not
I
like
don't
it
know.
just because of like the nature of it, or did you not like it because of like it was filmed or like it was presented bad, or is it
It
just
wasn't
like not
presented.
just the nature of it?
It was just the nature. It was. I wouldn't say it was presented badly. It was like probably better than anything SAO or anything. Like it's probably the exception rather than the rule. But it still made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair to feel very uncomfortable during, even though it is um again, it's very clear too. It's not like they cut to this scene while it's happening and it looks like she's actually being raped. It is very clearly set up to be a movie uh like set, but it is still extremely uncomfortable, and the acting is so vivid, and you just sit there and you're just like, oh no, is this going to happen in the future? Because a couple of other things that have happened in the show up to this point have been happening to her in her real life as well. So there's that shadow of doubt in your mind about like what this means for her character. I that's why it's my favorite scene. I think you could talk about it for so long. But yeah.
So Johnny, you had something to say about this.
Well, I'm kind of happy you brought up SAO, because okay, well, first of all, like if you like SAO, that's fine. It's your opinion. I'm not gonna judge, but like, see, like for me, like, okay, first of all, you already know that like I'm kind of insensitive when it comes to this kind of thing, but like I feel like if a scene needs to be like messed up, it has to like serve a purpose, and like in this, it served its purpose. It's to show like what she's going through and how like she doesn't want to do this, but she does it anyways because she wants to be an actor. Which I think is like a strong point, because like it doesn't do this for the sake of like fan service for the movie or anything. It's to show you that like this is a situation that she doesn't want to be in. And then where in SAO, well, you can argue that it's there just for the fan service.
So what I would say about that is that I think the point of specifically the scene in the second half of season 1 of SAO, right? that scene is there to make us hate whatever that guy's name is. I forget who it is. Um,
Sugo.
yeah. However, the scene is shot in such a way that the actual assault that happens is like clearly meant to be like tantalizing for the viewer. So what this movie does, 15 years before SAO comes out or whatever, is basically critique that type of thing, which is like the contrast behind like how she looks when she's in that rape scene and when they're filming like her breasts and it's all sexualized and stuff, and then how she feels when she's in the tub. Like it's very humanizing for the subjects of this. Whereas something like SAO isn't. SAO was like, okay, let's show something awful, but also like throw our audience a little bone here. We can see Asana's panties or whatever. Where this is really supposed to show you how uncomfortable something like that is. This is like a meta commentary on what SAO does, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. So I I'm not even gonna address the SAO point because I think it's fair, but it's also been beaten to death about how bad of a scene that was. And but yeah, I agree with Miles that this was definitely a critique of fan service in anime as well, because even though it was something I talked to him about earlier in the day as well, that I was like, well, wow, I was actually surprised that not only did they show like breasts and nudity in this movie, but they went like full on showing everything. And um you don't usually see that in anime, and maybe it was because it was from the 90s, so they were, the rules were a little bit less more lax with censoring back then, but they went all out and they were willing to show everything, which is not usually the case in most anime. Like, not we're not talking about like DxD like anime. We're talking about like um like a pure story rather than what's supposed to be fan service. So yeah, I don't know, that photo shoot was a great example too, where being she's being sexualized, and you can tell, and in the shoot she's doing a fantastic job acting like she's happy with it, but then when she actually gets um it gets done with it and is finished, she is miserable. She is devastated by what she's done. Um and again, you could discuss though whether that's Rumi feeling that when we see her uh being devastated or being bothered by what she's doing, Rumi pretending to be mommy or having the identity disorder to be not mommy, Minami. Sorry, again, the names
Mima.
are Mima. God damn it, there's so many names like that.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Pat, that dissociation between the two characters is, I would say, probably the predominant theme of the movie. There are many scenes in this movie, mostly involving murder, um, where we like where who is doing what and why is not necessarily clear. Throughout the movie, we are led to believe that Mima is sort of lashing out and attacking people who have, like, I guess, forced her into these situations, resulting in the loss of her innocence. However, we find later that it is potentially possible that some or all of these cases were Rumi, who was her manager, who was very protective of her and didn't want her to go into these sort of more adult roles where she would be viewed more sexually and things like that. She wanted to preserve or idolize the idol Mima. I know that has a lot to say here, as we had discussed about this earlier. So we're going to let him kick off this conversation. But I do know that this is something we all sort of have our own opinions on. So kick us off.
Yeah, this is kind of where the fun of the movie comes in, because I think that the dissociation and who kills who, et cetera, is just, it's left ambiguous enough to a few different interpretations. Each, I would say, hold their different amounts of water. And the interpretation that I like to go with, a lot of it is, I personally like this. I believe that what the explanation that I'm gonna give is gonna sound very like, it's just a feeling, and that's really what it is. I think throughout the entire movie, there's a movie that is being shot, which is supposed to basically be Perfect Blue, but it's referred to as Double Bind. It's telling you the story of Perfect Blue essentially through it though, and there's a lot of towards the middle of the movie and like the very end, there's like a lot of scenes that are shot sort of like a regular scene in Perfect Blue, and then it's like you hear cut, and then you see that, oh, this was actually a scene for Double Bind. It didn't actually happen. uh Probably the best example of this is you see Mima walking down a street and she's getting chased by someone. This is after you learn that after she quits being an idol and she's starting up her career as an actress. Uh, Someone's like, "Oh, do you want to try modeling?" Um, and this isn't for like the modeling that she actually does. This is for modeling within the movie, um, which is now funny that happened before she even got the call for the photo shoot. That's kind of funny. But so my theory is that at the very end, when everything sort of concludes, we get this scene where Rumi, the manager, is in a psych ward or like a psychiatric hospital, and Mima's there talking to a doctor, talking about the dissociative identity disorder, and then she leaves, gets in her car, and says, "I'm the real Mima." Now, this scene, Pete has brought this to. Well, I'll let Pete explain because it actually isn't relevant. But there's a lot of things here that are interesting. I think the most interesting part is that throughout the entire movie, Mima is referred to as Mima or Mima-chan, and it makes sense because she's an idol, and everyone knows who she is, at least that we see of in the public. Um, Except when she's on Double Blind, she's specifically referred to as Kirigo Mima or Kirigo Mami. It's Mima still, right?
Yeah, she's still Mima in the movie.
Yeah. So she's Mima in the movie, but she's referred to by her full name
Yes.
instead of just Mima-chan. And the last person to talk to Mima in the movie refers to her as, or not to Mima, but about Mima-chan, refers to her as Kirigo Mima, and it's the doctor. And the very last scene, when she gets in the car, and while there are a lot of like pokes at the audience, I think the very last scene is very drama, sort of like 80s movie-esque, where she's like, "I'm the real Mima," and she looks directly at the camera. So my theory is that the whole movie, or at least the ending of it, is double bind. That we never actually see the conclusion to whatever really was going on behind the scenes, but double bind itself is the conclusion we get. And that it runs since we've been sort of conditioned to show that double bind and Perfect Blue are sort of the same thing. We're just supposed to assume that the way Double Bind ends is the way that Perfect Blue ends. That's my theory. And I can I sock it
yeah,
to Pete? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I agree with you, Has, that changing in her naming is very important for the movie. However, it isn't some Inception thing where it's like a movie inside of a movie inside of a movie. It's I think it's just to show the evolution of her character and the fact that she shed her idol sort of clothing or whatever, right? So like Mima-chan is what she would be referred to as an idol. But as far as I know, you wouldn't call like an actress like a adult actress, not like a you know what I mean, like a mature actress sort of person like Mima-chan. Like that's not a name that would go to someone who is viewed as an adult. Because doesn't Chan usually refer to like a girl or something, like a younger
She's
person?
21, I think, in the movie, so it's probably that borderline is my guess.
Okay. So the fact that they refer to her by her full name, I think, and they're asking if she's a famous actress, is showing that potentially she has like made that metamorphosis, right? So like she is changed from an idol, Mima-chan, to an actress, whatever her full name is. I can't remember it. And that's how she's viewed by society now. Society doesn't view her as an idol trying to become an actress. Society views her as an actress. Now, I, Pete, you have something to say about this?
So it's kind of banking off Has, where it's like, is this like a movie inside of a movie? Like, what's real, what's not real? So there's a scene where she is being interrogated in the movie by the cops, and in that scene, you think that she's like filming for the show, and then after that scene, they cut to her real life, where you see her like, I think it's the congratulations scene, like in Neon Genesis, where all like, oh no,
Yeah.
and then after that, it's like a kind of like a dream state. So you get 3 different types of viewpoints in a row, and it's hard to distinguish how you view the movie. Is this like, do you think is Mima crazy? Is she actually having like a disorder? Is the movie that they're filming the actual movie we're watching? So there's a lot of questions, and that little scene, I think it's like an hour into the movie, you have like a just this surge of like different parallels, because before you get the type of scene where it's like she's filming, and then there's like a scene where like Rumi touches her shoulder, and then when she touches her shoulder, she snaps back into her on set. So you don't really know if she's like daydreaming or if that happened in real life. Where this was like boom, 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 3 different types of like sceneries, and it's a really interesting way to mess with your mind and how you view the movie. And I thought that was it. I thought that was like the best scene in the movie, just because it changed my perspective so many times on who I thought was killing the people, like how I viewed Mommy, how I viewed Rumi, how I viewed like the entire movie in general. It was incredible.
Yeah. I don't know. I was so I really liked how it would cut back and forth, with the like you were saying, with those scenes that were, oh, you never knew what was real or what was a dream sequence. And I think that the movie did a very good job with that for a long time, but by the end of it, and especially with the final like 15 minutes or so, that where it started to stop doing that, almost in my eyes at least, it stopped doing the quick cuts that are like, oh hey, yeah, we got you, that was the scene in the movie or whatever. That's when the movie started to lose me at the end, and it was frustrating to me, because I was like waiting for them to almost do the, oh, we got you, that was a movie scene with their final little fight that Rumi and Mima had, like that. It just felt like it was doing this. It had this theme going where it would constantly be like, "Oh, this didn't actually happen," or "Oh, this did happen. You thought it was a movie. It did happen." The final few scenes didn't really feel that way to me. But I don't know. So, Happy, you had a very interesting question. I remember that you asked earlier.
And,
So what?
and he had to step away actually really quickly, and it looks like he might have cut his leg. So we hope Happy is okay.
Man,
Yeah, that's okay.
dangerous show
He
today.
just DM'd us. So I think we could talk about, though. Let's just I don't know, dive real deep here, because at the end there is a heavy implication that at least some of these murders have been perpetrated by Rumi. And Rumi is her manager, who is sort of like overly protective of Mima. So I know that we have some disagreements as a group about how, or if not, Mima is actually responsible for the deaths of any of these people. So I think that the one that is most in question, or that she is most likely to have committed, would be the murder of the photographer.
Yes.
So I'm going to throw it to probably Pete.
Yeah.
To sort of outline the case that Mima murdered the photographer.
Okay, so here's my theory. I think Rumi killed every single person in the movie except for the photographer. And why I view that, here's my theory on how it is, because I think a lot of people think that like Rumi either had like a key to Mima's room, and stored the bloody clothes, because you see Mima waking up, going into the closet and finding all the clothes, and then you see like the press outside of her room. So there's two specific scenes where Rumi comes to Mima's house and rings the doorbell, and I think that's a clear indication that Rumi does not have access to her house without Mima being present. So that being said, I do think like Mima goes crazy. There's a couple scenes where I think Mima starts to lose it. When she accepts the rape scene, and seeing her friends celebrate. There's a scene where the two duos are singing, and you see Mima in like her idol uniform come out on stage, and people like go ape shit. And it's kind of different because she's wearing like this idol uniform while they're wearing like crop tops and like short shorts and stuff like that. And how the fans react makes it really seem like Mima was actually there, because it's kind of portrayed as like an illusion. So I do think Mima goes a little crazy during the movie. So I think that just because that Rumi didn't have access to it, and the key is the ice pick, that everybody has the access to the ice pick, and that's how everybody's essentially killed. I do think that Mima killed the photographer. But I also have like another theory, that in the movie that it's portrayed that Mima poses nude, and I don't think that actually happens. I think that's the viewpoint of Rumi. For two instances, there's the rape scene where it looks like she's legit getting raped, and I think that's through the eyes of Rumi. That's how they're like portraying Rumi seeing Mima as like her character. And the other scene is when the actual magazine is sold. It's sold on like the middle of the street, and if there's like legit like porno mags, you don't sell them on like the front street. So that's why I don't think that she actually posed nude. So that's my conspiracy theory of the. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge your view right here, Pete. So if your conspiracy theory is two-parted, right, it is that Mima is responsible for the death of the photographer, and that Mima didn't pose nude for the photographer.
Correct.
Why did she kill the photographer?
I think it was like it was another. It just added on to. First, it was like the rape scene where it's just adding more and more and more to her like going crazy, and I think this is just where she snapped. This is where I think she snapped in the movie.
So there are flashes during the murder of the photographer of being shot. So like, do you think she is inventing that in her head, like those scenes?
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's through. Yeah. I think it's how it's like she's being portrayed as like, because there's a scene like right after where she sees the vision of like herself in her idol uniform, where like the vision's like, you're a filthy woman now, like you are no longer like this person anymore, like you are filthy, like the exact quotes, like you are filthy. And I think that's like where she snaps. It's like, people don't portray me as like this cute like idol anymore, like they view me as kind of like this sexual like person, like very sexualized, very different. And I think that's where she snaps, because I think I think there's scenes where she's straight up jealous and missing the success of her idol group, and I feel like that's kind of like where she wanted, because there's also the other scene where she is in the recording studio, and I don't know if they're recording like a radio show, and that's the scene where the two girls from her duo group are recording. There's the vision of her also in the recording studio, and then she chases it and then gets almost hit by the truck, by the stalker, if you remember that scene. So there's like a lot of scenes where it seems like she's extremely jealous that the success of the idol group, and that this is who she is now. Like, I think before she wanted to be an idol, that was her dream. And then she wanted to be an actress as well, but how she is as an actress isn't like the route that she thought she was going to take. And I think she kind of wishes that she went back.
Hess, you have something.
Yeah, I also wanted to say, just to Pete's point, the idea that Mima is not the initial murderer but continues them kind of goes into another point in the movie that's sort of there throughout, where Mima starts to sort of like things that she believes or like are suggested she believes happen with the stalker page of Mima's room, right? And when you see like she's like, oh, maybe I did go there with like a trip somewhere or whatever, like using her left foot to step out of a train or whatever, and it makes her paranoid. In terms of how the murders went, the first murder happened with the photographer, and then there was sort of this, you have this scene on set where it's like, oh, is she cursed? And people start to say like people around her are gonna die, etc. And like that becomes a little theory. It's very slight, but it would sort of be in line with what else happens with Mima sort of just starting to manifest what she is suggested to be happening.
Yes, there's specifically a scene where she's like, she looks like she's just in like terrible condition, and she's browsing Mima's room, the website, and it's like there's like a blog post that she's at a certain location, and her like exact response was, "Oh, I guess I was there today." Like she doesn't know like where she was or what she's like. She doesn't know if like she actually was there, if she's just believing whatever the persons are posting on there. It's like she's losing her mind. She doesn't know.
So, so that location is actually very important because the location was a shopping center. In the picture of her at the shopping center, you see the green polo that the pizza delivery person wore during the murder, and then you see it later cover in blood in her closet, which I guess is like the biggest piece of evidence pointing to Mima having killed the person. However, I do think like you should, like, the point does need to be made that Mima doesn't remember doing that, and Mima sees Rumi as herself often because of her deteriorating mental state. I'm not saying that Mima was sane by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't think that I don't think she murdered anyone, really. So, Johnny, what do you got to say about this?
Alright, so I just want to say for the pizza scene that like I'm on Pete's side. I think that it was Mima because Miles, you're saying that Rumi was the person that killed the photographer.
Like 100%, yes.
I am also in that boat. I can't believe.
Okay,
you guys
but
think this.
here's some points that I want to mention. First of all, is that the size of the clothes.
So,
Do you think that they would have been able to fit onto Rumi?
I mean, Rumi has been known to wear outfits that don't fit her to appear as Mima throughout the series.
That is true.
Yeah, that's. I was gonna
Yeah.
say that. Even in the last scene, like she's wearing the idol outfit, and it's not.
I believe the outfit is also
flattering on
very
her.
baggy on the pizza delivery person, right?
Was
Like
it
it's
very-
I'm not
was
sure.
it very
I
baggy?
would have to go back and check, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, either way, like my stance on this is kind of like in. So we're all in agreement here that both people are insane.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Mima's absolutely crazy. I think she gets it together by the end, but like she's definitely having like identity issues.
So we're saying that both Mima and Rumi here were having like delusions about the idol mommy.
Yes.
Mima.
Because Mima, yeah, sorry, it's so many names. Okay, so like my point I was trying to say is that like both these people are having like these like mental delusions about the same, how should I say this? The same idea of like this idol, because like, see, like for Mima's perspective, it's her like going away from who she used to be, and she thinks that she is inferior because of the things she does now. And for Rumi's perspective, is the fact that like Mima is no longer who she used to be, and she can't accept that, so she creates a delusion where that version of Mima still exists.
I think it's
then there's-
another thing, to be honest. Rumi is also known as like a failed idol and actress, so I think you could also see it as Rumi is like portraying herself onto Mima,
Yeah,
like living
That's a good-
vicariously through her.
yeah, that's a good point. It's like she feels that like. Yeah, that's a good point. She like wants to be that version of
Exactly.
Mima. And then like the one thing we haven't talked about yet is the stalker because you can see that the stalker also sees like this like idol Mima just like around him.
Yeah, so I think that and I'm sure other people have stuff, but I guess quickly, he gets emailed by who is Rumi, telling him that he is the real Mima. Like, don't believe these things you're seeing. Don't believe these like lewd photo shoots and what you're seeing on
Do you
TV.
know
Like,
it's Rumi or do you just
you know it's Rumi.
It's pretty clear
it's
it's Rumi.
it's pretty
Um,
clear, yeah.
okay.
and that like he should believe that like this person is not real, that she's an imposter. And because he idolizes the idol Mima so much, he buys into this, that the actual Mima is an imposter. Like the very beginning, you see a scene where he like is looking at her and he like holds his hand up in like such an angle that it looks like he's like holding her as
Like this, yeah.
yeah, like as she dances on stage, like she is like a literal object that he possesses. Um, and so because he doesn't like the direction she's headed, along with Rumi, they sort of, I guess, like co-conspire. But he doesn't really seem smart enough to conspire. He gets influenced by her to go along with her wills and even attempts to kill Mima towards the end of the movie.
Yes, because she thinks that it's not actually Mima. He thinks that it's a traitor. He thinks that it's an imposter. It's a person pretending to be Mima and ruining her character because he is so delusioned that he thinks that the one that he's actually talking that the Rumi who he's talking to through email is the real Mima or whatever. Which I mentioned this in my notes. I think it was really cool how even in 1997 this they talked about, oh, don't look at that page, that fan page. In general, like they showed it was a good critique on how bad the internet could be for people's mental states or for misinformation or for anything along those lines like that the internet is very notoriously bad about. And I think the fact that they knew that back in 1997 when the internet was you know barely taking off, like they had to, like they showed in the movie, she had to learn how to type like http and all sorts of things like that in to make a web page work. The fact that they knew back then how damaging it could be kind of shows, or I think that was interesting at least. But yeah, um, Happy, did you have something else you wanted to add about the scene in general? I think.
So you were talking about how it was a commentary and how the internet can be like a bad thing for like a celebrity or whatnot. Um, Okay, I'm not sure if this is relevant, but you guys remember the story about that girl in Japan who like stabbed her boyfriend like several times and she became very popular on the internet or
The
something?
Yandere, the RL Yandere
Yeah.
girl. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's relevant to what we're talking about, but that's something I just thought of.
No.
I mean, it's relevant in the sense that it's like the same, I guess, the same idea, but yeah, I think I can see why your mind jumps there. I guess like
I
the
mean,
five.
calling Mima yandere isn't that much of a stretch, so.
See, that's a stretch to me because
I
again, I
think
think
Me
Mima.
Mania. Oh, go ahead, Pat. Sorry.
So no, you're good. I think, well, yeah, I think yeah, like I'm sure Miles, I think was about to say that Mimimi is a yandere. I think that's a fair thing. He's the ugliest yandere I've ever seen. My God, but he's of course meant to be. He's meant to be this sickening to look at person that is very clearly like an incel. Like
This
a
this
person
man
that.
created the idea of ugly bastard.
Yeah,
Like,
no, but that's
He's
what
too
he's supposed
skinny.
to be. He is too skinny for ugly bastard.
yeah, that's fair.
Not that we would know.
He
We're
looks like Joakim Noah for my basketball fans out there.
You're an anime podcast. No one knows who Joakim Noah
he
is.
looks worse than Joakim Noah too.
God, what if Joakim Noah listens to us? What if we had like one really famous fan?
Come join our club, please.
Please, I will leave it permanently for saying that you look like Me Mania. You can take over the host position from me.
Yeah,
He
like
looks
that guy's
like me
like,
pre-surgery.
like that guy's eyes look like fish eyes. Like they were
Yeah,
like
Joakim, I agree. Um,
Wow.
um,
Anyways, God, what were we talking about before
Conspiracy
that?
theories.
I do want to. I think that Happy brings up something that's relatively relevant here. That there are things IRL that are pretty similar to the story. I know Pete had one he wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I was wondering how much this was based off of the real life event of Selena, where if you don't know who Selena is, was essentially Jennifer Lopez before Jennifer Lopez was Jennifer Lopez, which is funny because Jennifer Lopez plays her in the movie, where she's like this huge up and coming Mexican pop singer, and she was murdered by her fan club like president. And essentially how it happened was that the president felt so entitled to like owning Selena. Like Selena was getting so big that she was for everybody and not just for her. So if for some reason in her mind she's like, well, if everybody wants her, no one can have her, so I'm going to murder her. And so I kind of got the vibe from this because like Rumi kind of was like giving off like this feel of like, well, Mima was my creation and now she's becoming, because she in terms of like the idol world, they were like pretty low bar idols, and so I feel like that level of success didn't bother Rumi. But then when she started getting on in like motion pictures and people are seeing the talent that she has, and it's like, oh, now more people are talking about Mima, more people are hurting the image of Mima, that's my Mima, and so I'm going to kill her. And I felt like that had like a really Selena vibe to it. I was like, that's kind of crazy that like they mixed those things together.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do. Another example from that for IRL is, I don't know if you guys know about like the Bjork stalker sort of case. Um, but it was like a super fan, sort of similar to Me Mania, who like stalked. I think Bjork is Swedish. I don't know what she is.
Icelandic.
Icelandic. The Icelandic singer Bjork, and he slowly found out that like her persona wasn't actually like who she was in real life, and he could not take it. Filmed a series of videos where he like slowly loses his mind, puts together a package in the mail that is a sulfuric acid bomb that he sends to her with the attempt to like mail it to her to kill her, and then he would kill himself so that they could be together in heaven. Um, so like that's sort of, I think like the themes in this movie sort of resonate with how celebrity is handled IRL as well. Just like with people's inability to take someone off the pedestal, to realize that they're a real person, that personas exist, you know, that there's like a public facing person and that people can change and evolve over time. Johnny, you had something to say.
yeah. Well, like this is going back to what Pete said about like Rumi and her feelings for Mima. I don't think it had to do with her becoming more popular. I think it just had to do with her like losing what made her like who she was. Is like I think it was more of like the fact that she was losing her innocence, not that she was getting more popular. Because I feel like she would be happy if she became more popular because like she had the delusions that she was Mima. So I don't feel like her becoming popular would be a reason for Rumi to want to kill her.
I guess it's viewed because like if Rumi really views like living vicariously through Mima, it shows that Rumi was a failure and that Mima is a success, and that she didn't want Mima to be more successful than her. It's kind of like how I viewed it.
But I don't think success had to do too much with it because she want because like she wanted her to be popular. That's why she was her agent.
Well, like her success led to like the scenes where, like you saw when when Mima had like the rape scene, that Rumi was crying in that like on the sidelines. Like you saw her getting these roles and her becoming more popular, especially in the photo shoot scene as well. You're seeing the loss of innocence from Mima, and I think it's the like she didn't want Mima to continue down this road because like her success led to like the loss of innocence.
I don't think it has to do with the popularity though, because as you said, it's the fact that she's losing her innocence, not that she's becoming more popular. I don't
I
think
think it's
becoming
both. I just think it's both. That's just my view.
Yeah, I can see what Johnny's saying. Like, Johnny, your thought is that if she ended up being like the world's most popular pure and innocent idol, that Rumi would be like all over that and be like, "Yay, go
yeah,
Mima!"
exactly, because Rumi's her agent. She did this so that she could be successful. So I don't see why she would be upset. She would be upset the fact that she did become successful. It's just she didn't like the path that she went
Yeah,
down.
her success led her to that path.
Yeah, Pete is saying, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. That so Rumi attempted to do the career pivot that Mima did, and it did not go well for Rumi, as you can tell by her appearance and the fact that she's an agent now. Um, so I think that what Pete is getting at is that she uh, Mima went down the path that Rumi tried to go down, and that path is sort of um, that career switch was something that like Rumi sort of blamed for her own failures, and since Mima is being successful at it, um, it's not the career path's fault that Rumi failed. It's her fault, and so like her attempting to shelter Mima from that uh, started off in her own head as altruistic, but it was actually her wanting to like avoid her own failures and preserve someone that she viewed herself as, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you can literally like view it a bunch of different ways, and everybody can be right. Like I think Johnny is right, and I also think I'm right. I think we're kind of like in the same direction. We're just saying different things. We kind of mean the same thing. It's
It's like 85% similar. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a very
Yeah,
similar.
well, like
thought.
I don't think for a show like this there's something necessarily like the right answer. It's
Yeah,
really just
exactly.
up to the audience interpretation.
Absolutely.
For a show like this, there is no right or wrong.
You could tell by everyone's perspective on who we thought killed the photographer. It's just like it's literally just up to like how you viewed things.
Well,
Well,
no, everyone else is wrong except for the people who say that it was.
yeah, no, everyone's opinion is
Me.
wrong except mine, obviously.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So I do want to throw a wrench into what Pat and I were saying. Really quickly, I do think that we should probably start, I guess, wrapping up here kind of soon. But a thing to note is that this movie, and I think we should discuss what this means because we haven't really done that. So we're going to just sort of impromptu this discussion. This movie is bookended by two voice acting. First off, did everyone watch the sub or did anyone watch the dub?
I watched
Sub.
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 Okay, cool. So everyone watched the sub. So this actually doesn't happen in the dub, and it's a mistake. But during Mima's solo and the actual at the beginning of the movie, Mima's solo during the sham concert, and the very last scene where she says like "I'm the real me" or whatever, "I'm the real one" or something like that. Uh, that is not Mima's voice actress. That is Rumi's voice actress. So, what do we think about that? What does that mean? Pat looks really wide-eyed. So we're gonna wait and let him gather his thoughts at that revelation. What do you think about that? The last mind twist.
So this is this information that was thrown to us about 20, 30 minutes before we started recording. We found out, or Miles informed us. I don't know how long Miles knew, but fuck him for informing us at all.
Yeah, really. Oh my god.
So
I have an aneurysm.
there was a earlier conversation in our pre-show, which has ran on longer than the actual show is gonna go,
True.
where we're all discussing who the fuck is real to begin with, because there is a way Mima herself doesn't exist, or Rumi doesn't exist, or the stalker doesn't exist. Now, what I think is that in the beginning, there's two ways this could go. There's the way that I'm going to fit it into my ending, and the way that it seems. It seems like Mima doesn't exist, or if Mima exists, her life is being what her and Rumi is like fucking with Mima's career in some way. That's how it looks to me. Like there's another scene that happens later on where Mima appears to go on stage after she's pretty much lost. Like she's done with the idol group. And the idols are noticeably concerned because they're very confused as to why someone's there. And although at the time, initially it looks like it's just like the ghost Mima or whatever we're calling her. Like the fan reaction and the fact that the idols are confused make it seem like someone's there. I personally think that if we're going down the route of people that don't exist, I think Rumi went on stage as Mima. I think Rumi quite possibly did get out in the end and take over Mima's position in the world. Because there's multiple times that Mima and Rumi, or Ghost Mima and Rumi, are shown parallel to each other through a mirror. And the one right before the end, where right before the chase scene starts, Rumi's in the reflection, meaning that she's fully transformed into her ideal version of Mima. But when we see her again in the psych ward, Rumi is the one that's being shown with Ghost Mima in the mirror. But that would imply that she reverted, which I don't think she did. So it's highly possible that Rumi got away with it all, and that Rumi is now Mima. Yeah.
Damn.
Okay, so where do I begin? Okay, so first of all, I just want to mention that last scene. I think that has to do with the matter of perspective, because when the first mirror scene, it's implied that you're seeing it from Mima's perspective, and you see that like the person who's actually there is quote unquote idol Mima, but then you see the reflection is actually Rumi, and I think that implies that like that was actually Rumi. It's just that that's how Mima sees her. And in the scene where she's in the psych ward, she is looking at herself in the mirror, which like in this case herself, I mean Rumi, and we see Rumi looking at her own reflection, which is Mima. So that means that she still thinks that she herself is Mima, obviously. But I don't think this has to do with like the. I don't think this is a case of like Rumi replacing Mima in any way. It's the fact that like, it's just her own delusions.
Well, I was just saying that, like, maybe not literally replace, but I think that the person, because I think also outside of Pat, of course, we all agree that both of them are fucking crazy. I think the person that ends up in the psych ward is Mima, and that Rumi gets to live on with her delusions outside.
So there is a scene where, in the psych ward, where Mima is walking to the mirror of the psych ward to see idol Mima, but then regular in the psych ward Mima turns into Rumi. So
Wait, what?
yeah. So like, okay, so in the psych ward there is a scene where you see Rumi in the psych ward, correct? But then there is a scene where the person in the psych ward, well, I'm just gonna paste it here, but like basically it's Mima looking at idol Mima in the mirror in the psych ward at the end, with Mima looking on to both of them from the observation area.
Okay. That was the scene where I was talking about. I think that was from Rumi's perspective, and that like Mima doesn't actually see that in the mirror, because it's implied that at the end of the movie Mima becomes better, so why would she see her idol self again?
Is it implied though? Because again, the very last line of the movie from Mima is said by Rumi's voice actress.
And that was the point I was going to go into, is the fact that Rumi still thinks that she is Mima. So it's a double meaning. They both think they are the same person.
Yeah, I think they're both crazy. I think Mima gets better, like at the end where you see it. But I think at one point in the movie they are both like split personality, going crazy type of people.
Yeah, that's how I see it. I see it as the fact that they both think they're the same person, and that's why they use the voice actor.
Happy, what have you got to throw your wrench into this pipeline. Like,
Yeah, so my thought is that, okay, maybe Rumi isn't real at all. Maybe it's all just a metaphor for Mima letting go of like her idol career. Because when you think about it, when you think about like when Mima's like breaking down slowly, who's always there for her? Who is her constant companion? It's Rumi. Like when we have like two scenes of her um at Mima's dorm or apartment or whatever, and and she seems to be this almost like this moral compass at first, like with the you know what scene, and then later she's I'm sorry, I'm bad at talking, but yeah, but like she's always Ruby's like the only person who seems to care for her, and then when it's later revealed that this idol Mima is really Rumi, I don't know, I'm
No,
bad at
Happy, I
collecting
think
my
I know what you're
thoughts.
saying because there's two scenes where Mima wakes up from a dream state and the doorbell rings and it's Rumi. So I think I
Right,
know
right,
I
right,
think I
right,
know what you're saying,
right.
that like when
Yeah,
she's in
right.
distress, it's usually Rumi that seems to be there.
Yeah, right.
So I had agreed with you when I first watched this, Happy, but then I watched this movie like a bajillion other times because I needed to know, and you can't know; it's impossible. However, there is a scene where Mima calls whatever her male manager's name is, and Rumi is in that room with him as she's like there. So
Oh,
I,
okay,
I
okay.
think we see Rumi around other people and interacting with other people when we know Mima's somewhere else, that they both have to be real. And I really want to create a world where one of them isn't, but I think they both are, and we just need to like reconcile with that somehow. And it's a little bit difficult. Pat, you have had a lot of time to think about this.
yeah.
What do you got? What have you done? What does your brain come up with?
Well, all right. So first off, I do think that Mima goes through very serious like paranoia and psychological issues throughout the film, but I don't think she ever actually snaps or is crazy. I don't think she could ever be defined as crazy because I think even if you call it paranoia, I think a lot of it was justified considering the events that were happening, whether that's with her fan page or with um her her number one fan showing up and at these random times, which of course maybe she was seeing him most of those scenarios, but he definitely also was stalking her and putting newspaper clippings, or whether that was her or Rumi, or putting up those newspaper clippings of the guy that was um, murdered or the guy that was assaulted. Like, that that's open for interpretation, like most of this movie is. Um, I don't know. I is piecing together what exactly happened is very difficult, and and even listening to you guys, I'm not very sold on any of your theories other than the one that already was stuck with, which was the fact that Rumi is the one that did all of this murdering and all of the issues that that happened, I think, based around Rumi, not so much Mima snapping or doing anything. Again, there's so much going on. This is why you gotta watch this movie on your own, because otherwise you are not going to understand a goddamn word we've said. And we've been talking for about an hour and like 5 minutes or so about this movie, and there is so much we haven't touched yet. There's so many more questions that we cannot answer in this time, and we're not
I,
going to
I
try to.
already have a headache, so let's just like.
Yeah, I don't know.
uh,
I am so it was so hard. I mean, I remember I watched it this morning and I like messaged Miles and I was like, okay, um, so what did you think about this, and that? And even that only made me question myself more and change my opinion on this movie more. The more you think about it, the more your opinion changes, which is fantastic. First off, that a movie's able to do this and while still being somewhat sensical, like um I haven't really seen Inception that well. I think watched it when I was under the influence once, and that was it. But even then, like I was so lost, even by the end of it, that it didn't make enough sense to me that I felt good after watching it. This movie is quite the opposite, where I felt I felt so confident that I understood what happened, and then I talked to more people about it, and hearing all these different theories has definitely changed my perspective on it. Like it is constantly evolving, and I'm assuming you guys feel the same way. But yeah, I think we're all squared away. I mean, there's no real best boy or girl kind of. That's just again not the vibe of this movie at
Not at
all.
all.
Not at all. It's almost a critique on that section of our show. So you know what? Maybe 20 years in advance, they knew that we would be doing some segments like this, and they decided to say, "Screw your segments. That's messed up," and your whole fantasizations about characters in general is bad. I don't know. Satoshi Kon might have to come on and explain himself sometime. He's welcome to if you would like
Yeah,
to.
a big fan of the show. I know he is. So
Yeah. But
when
yeah. So
when you hear this, DM me, Satoshi.
yeah. Yeah, hit us up. We're here. But yeah, so let's move on to final thoughts, and we'll just go in the order. Final thoughts and scores. So we'll just go in the order that I have on my screen. So Miles, why don't you kick us off with your final thoughts and your score for Perfect Blue?
Yeah, this movie is fucking dope. There's a lot of things to think about in the movie. It is a lot of fun to think about this movie. It is a lot of fun to watch this movie. Um, this is one of those movies where I first watched it and I was like, "Wow, was this bad?" And then I thought about it and I was like, "Nah, it's like really good, huh?" Um, and then I watched it a few more times. For anime movies out there, if people are looking for a comparison, the closest comparison for not exactly what happens, but the way I felt while watching this movie would be the end of Evangelion. Um, because both of them just sort of like had I had like a initial visceral
Yeah.
distaste for them. And this one not as strong as End of Evangelion, which made me want to die and vomit and just not be a human anymore. But it definitely is something that like you watch it and you're like, huh, did that even make sense? And then you realize that it might have, and then you can't stop thinking about it. Um, so I'd recommend this movie. I'd say watch it. And it's fun to read stuff online and listen to critical analysis and all of that and try to put stuff together. Um, I'm going to give it a fuck. God fucking fuck.
Say it.
Yeah,
Say it.
yeah, you got it, Pete. You win. It's a 10. You got it. You win. It's a fucking 10.
Woo!
Wow, Miles. So you
Woo!
earlier today, when I was talking to you, you said it's floating. I can't decide between an 8 or a 9. So you have completely changed.
I have done nothing but think about this movie for when was that? Like 9 a.m.
That was
It's
like
been
it was like
12 hours.
yeah, it was like 9 a.m. It
I-
was.
Looks like you've been thinking about this for 12 hours too.
Yeah, no, I feel like that scene from Always Sunny, where Charlie's just like and just like looking at the whiteboard
The
with all the
whiteboard.
lines everywhere and everything, and there's just I don't know. This movie's fucking great. It's like a classic for a reason. And they, you know what? They fucking fully animated the idol scenes. So fuck you, Love Live.
Yeah, seriously. They actually did the thing that idol anime, in my humble opinion, as someone who doesn't watch that kind of stuff, that they should the one thing that they should probably focus on, right? That you would think would be focused on an idol anime. But I guess that's something to talk about another time. Happy, what have you got for a final score and your final thoughts as well?
So first of all, you guys all realize Satoshi Kon is dead, right?
No,
No,
Nah,
rest in
he-
peace.
he's a big fan of the show. We
He left a
transcend
comment.
dimensions.
He
but
left
so
a
one
comment on the last video. What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
So one thing I thought about too is like now I couldn't find an article that he addressed this movie very like upfront about like the way he wrote it, because obviously because he wrote it, he knows like what happened, or he had an idea of what happened in the movie, but I don't recall him ever coming out and actually directly saying it, which of course a lot of directors don't do that. But I don't know, I feel like I expected more interviews to have been conducted around this movie. But either way,
So
that's a different point.
the only thing I saw from him was in response to people calling this like basically a massive, and you know what, Shitoshi is wrong about what he did. So he was saying basically like he didn't mean to go at the idol community, and that like he did his research and stuff, but like he wanted to like apologize for people watching this and like thinking that the idol industry was like bad. But in it, he said he wanted to make a story about a girl who has issues with her identity, who comes out stronger and like more convicted at the end. So ultimately, that is what this movie is about, per word of God. There is death of the author and all of that, so take that as you will. Especially since he was saying that this wasn't a critique of the idol industry in it, and honestly, it is. So
I was just saying, like, I don't know
Yeah.
how it could not be. Yeah,
he might not have meant that, but it for sure is. So yeah.
I don't know
anyways,
how he didn't mean that. That was him saving face. So there's no. Sorry, buddy, you lied through your teeth because there's no way that this wasn't. But anyways, Happy, please, sorry to cut you off there. I did want to make. I meant to make that point when Miles first finished, and it slipped my mind. Maybe I'm having some DID myself. Who knows? But Happy, go ahead with your final thoughts and
Okay,
score.
okay. I'm going. So I feel like as an art house piece, it's really well done, really well crafted. As a meta commentary of like the idol industry and of like Japanese pop culture in general, I think it's really good. Even if it wasn't intended that way, like Satoshi Kon said. My biggest hurdle is just some of those trigger warnings, like the sexualization. Excuse me. And I don't think it's an awful film. It's not one I would gravitate towards. So I'd give it a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10.
Wow.
Fair enough. That's. Well, I didn't expect you to go that low. Good for you, though. I stick to your guns, man. I respect it. Haz, what have you got for a final score and thoughts?
This movie was amazing. I'm so glad I waited last minute to watch it, because God forbid I watched this a week
Yeah.
early, and it just would have been a bad time for that week. This movie is like the first time you get high, like you want to set aside a day or two for it, right? Just to take it all in. So yeah, no, this movie's great. Obviously, there's a lot of ways to take it, as you could tell from our conversation. If you can, if you're good with dealing with like uncomfortable things like the struggle cuddle, that's
Call it a struggle cuddle.
We're gonna move on from that point. Haz, continue, please.
Yeah, no, like I'm pretty good with that. It's like all the manga that came out wrong, but
yeah, okay,
yeah.
we got it. Guys. Continue.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
There
10
it
out of
is.
10. There it is.
Okay. There we go. Johnny, what have you got?
Okay, I'm try to avoid what happens. Okay, so
you.
like that stuff aside, like that stuff doesn't bother me. It's like, but the same problem is that while it doesn't bother me, it doesn't make me invested into a show by itself. Which, like, I talked about this before, how I actually felt connected to the characters, so that was an improvement. But yeah, like this show, like going into it, honestly, like I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. So just for that, I'll probably give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10 for Johnny. All right, Pete. What about you?
So this was, I think, by far the best thing we've done on Watch Club to date. This show was genius. I already updated like my top 100 anime is now my number 13 anime of all time. I am putting it above Silent Voice. It's getting a 10 out of 10. This movie is absolutely incredible. How many different, like, we talked about it pre-show for 2 hours and we weren't even close to done talking about it. And now we talked about it on here for another like hour and a half. Still not done talking about it. We didn't even talk about the scene where she was sexually assaulted in the studio. Her clothes are ripped off. And then when they go back into the studio, she has brand new clothes on. It's like, there's so many layers to this movie in 80 minutes. It's incredible. This is one of the easiest 10 out of 10s of my entire life. This show is just pure genius. Everybody should watch it if you're above like 15. Love it, love it, love it. If I could give it like a 30 out of 10, I would. So I'll give it a 10.
Wow. All right. So there's a 10 out of 10 from Pete. So I agree. This movie's a classic for a reason, and it kept me hooked, and it still has kept me hooked. And obviously, as you can see, it kept all of us hooked in some way. like so long, and I'm gonna be thinking about this like others have said. I'm gonna be thinking about this for a long time. I'm not gonna. It's not gonna just vanish like other shows might. My biggest praise of the film is that again the rape scene. It's so well done, and it is disturbing. It causes a volatile reaction inside of you while also still being incredibly well shot and symbolic. And I love it. Where this film this film's biggest downfall for me was or Miles put it best. It does a lot of things really well, but then it just doesn't tie the bow on at the end. Is the way he put it, and I agree with that. I think that considering they gave us so many fake outs, but then direct answers to those fake outs throughout the movie, the very ending didn't tie up enough for me, and I was left very frustrated at the end, like I usually am with a lot of these things. I wonder if that's just a common theme, but s- despite that, this movie is phenomenal. Again, we cannot sing its praises enough. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I couldn't quite give it the that perfect score, but it is again stunning and something that you really just have to watch. So yeah, I think based off of my math, that totals us up to an 8.6 average for
With
this
the
movie.
5, holy shit.
With the 5, an 8.6.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
so it's an 8.66 repeating is my tally. If someone wants to check my math, they can, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. I don't know. It's not that hard. It's not. Last week was an exception.
I believe in you.
Last week was my other personality. Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
Very very good joke. I appreciate all the laughs you guys just gave me for it. But yeah, so I guess that wraps up our discussion of Perfect Blue. Again, an 8.66. That is now
Is that 1 or
our
2?
that is number 2 behind
Ping
Ping
pong?
Pong.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was
Okay.
ping
And
pong again?
Ping Pong was an 8.86,
Wow.
so
Okay.
that is going to be hard to touch. Although I think no, it's not going to because there's you guys in this podcast. But I think the show that we're watching next week could arguably be up there with Ping Pong. So why don't we? I'm gonna hand it to Miles because I think we all know who won this week, but we
Yeah.
don't
No,
know the
let's just say the
scores.
order just because.
Yeah, let's do the order. Just kidding. I actually haven't done that math yet because I had no desire to count things. I am not kidding here. Like, I'm going to do this math at some point, and some stupid show with like 4 votes, like Megalobox, is going to come in second. So,
Wow, that was my show.
yeah, Pete, your shows don't win for a reason. So I think that the winner of this week is Violet Evergarden. The second place show of this week is also Violet Evergarden. Every show that anyone voted for in any capacity is Violet. I actually forgot to vote this week. I think it's just because, like, within 40 seconds of last week, everyone sent me their votes, and they were just all for Violet Evergarden.
Yep.
And I was just like, well, this is done. There's no point. My voice doesn't matter.
Every vote counts, Miles. You can't know for sure.
Much
Actually,
like
Miles, actually I won the election. We're actually doing Megalobox. Sorry.
Yeah.
sorry. That's a good point.
Using his power as usual.
So I have decided that the votes that I don't like are fake votes, and they were cast after the deadline.
Exactly.
Even though they were well before the deadline, and we will be watching Megalobox. Fuck it, who cares? We're gonna be watching the Megalobox special known as Violet Evergarden.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone get ready to strap in and hug your cute mail courier because it is Violet Evergarden time. I finally have to watch the show.
Thank God.
I can't wait to disappoint Pat.
Yes, very much so. You're going.
I'm going to give it like an 8 or a 9, and he's going to be aghast.
Yep.
So,
No doubt.
he has called it like anime
Of the decade.
decade.
I will stand by that. It was the non-movie anime of the decade for sure.
So yeah. get your Netflix subscription warmed up, and let's all watch.
Also, get a lot of napkins.
Yeah, Violet.
Napkins, tissues. You don't want to be
I
scratching
don't know.
your
I
eyes
don't know
like
what you
that.
guys
I don't know.
use.
Usually you wipe your eyes with tissues, don't you, Johnny? I don't know. That's maybe you use tissues for other things. But anyways, now we have to do our nominations for this week. So we know the Violet Evergarden won. So whoever voted or nominated that, I think was it Johnny who nominated?
No, it has.
It was Haz. I knew it was one of you two. So Haz, you're gonna have to come up with a new nomination this week. I'm sure you were prepared because you probably knew that we were doing this show anyways. But just to give you a little bit of time, we'll start with Miles. Miles, what show are you going to be nominating for this coming week of this coming week's votes? I should say.
Yeah. So I think I'm just gonna double down on the Satoshi Kon films. I've nominated the show before, or this movie before, and I'm just gonna do Paprika. We're gonna give it another go. We're gonna re-up the Paprika.
I'm going to spice it up.
Oh, shut up.
that one was pretty good. I don't know. Thank you guys. I appreciate once again all of your
I
laughter.
hate you.
Happy, what show are you nominating this week?
Okay, a show that I'm gonna nominate. Has anybody heard of the anime Release the Spice?
Oh yeah, it came out last year, I think.
Was it? Okay. I think I'll nominate that. It's pretty much just Princess Principal, but like modern.
Yep.
Release the Spice.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like they were like
Don't make another Spice
mech
joke.
suits and stuff. Like I don't know.
It's not highly rated, but it looks pretty, so I'm down for it. Good nomination, Happy. I like it. All right, let's go to Haz now. Haz, what are you nominating now? Place Violet Evergarden.
So this is hard because do I want to win again or do I want to shit the bed? I originally thought that I would become a high class monster. I'm not. I can't do it. I don't know how Miles does it. So I'm gonna nominate something something off the wall, something I can only describe as a Matrix the dating simulator. And I'm pretty sure I nominated before. It's called If Her Flag Breaks. And this show is a harem show with as the title implies, flags being the main component that goes into an Evangelion level twist. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, you have not nominated this before, I don't think.
He
because
has.
Oh,
this-
I didn't.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
pretty
you
sure I
have.
have.
Yeah, you
Did
have.
he really?
Yep.
Okay, well then you might have described
I
it
didn't.
differently.
I didn't describe it like this.
Okay,
'cause
that's
I wanted
why.
it.
Okay.
I wanted it to be a full surprise.
Oh,
but
I
now
have
I'm
to
like,
vote
I have
for this,
to.
huh?
You do.
Wow, that sucks. Okay, for sure.
All right, Johnny, what have you got for us?
All right. So I've been nominating the same show like twice now, but I think if we're gonna watch Violet Evergarden, we can't handle all the depression. So I'm gonna do something a little bit nicer. So my recommendation for this week is gonna be a Teasing Master Takagi-san.
Nice. I love that show.
Okay, that
Season
Yeah.
3.
Season
Yeah,
1.
Season 3, 1. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh no!
No,
it
only
already
season
got
1.
announced.
Only season 1. By the way, I just want to specify that.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, we knew, and we weren't watching multiple seasons. That's for sure.
I mean, if you guys
But,
want to, go ahead.
I'll pass. Yes, Pete. Pete, go ahead. What's your
I kind of got
nomination?
the same vibes as Johnny. I want to do something that's not depressing and switch it up a little bit. And maybe we can have some fun. So I'm going to recommend College Drinking the Anime, aka Grand Blue.
Grand Blue. Okay, I've heard good things about that. All right, so I guess that leaves just me left. God, I'm so excited to be doing Violet Evergarden. It's not just depression, guys. Come on, it is beautiful.
Pretty water and depression.
Beautiful
No,
depression.
It is emotion depicted so well. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going with the same nomination that it seems to do well every week. I'm assuming this week it probably placed in the top 3 like it always does. Elfin Lead, you can't go wrong. Again, we can get into some more psychological shit with that show, and I think it's gonna be a good time. It's also one of the few shows on my plan to watch that hasn't aired yet, so or is that has aired so far. So I do want to knock it off the list eventually. So yeah, so those are our 6 nominations. I think that wraps up our meeting today. So thank you guys for joining us and listening. Again, you guys are welcome to vote in the Discord. I guess I should just let Pete do his usual
Yeah,
plug.
why not? Hey, guess what? Since Pat said that, we have a Discord. You should join it. Links in the description below. We're also on Twitter. What do you say, Annie? That's what you say, A and I on Twitter. We are also now affiliated with BooksAMillion. So if you are looking to buy physical manga, we have a affiliate link. They have a buy two, get the third free for physical manga. And guess what? You get to help out the brand if you just click the link and buy it from there. So consider doing that. But other than that, next week we have our Mal review episode, which is probably going to be a bunch of fun. Can't wait for that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so tune in if you like games and really bad Mal reviews. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be discussing Violet Evergarden. And somewhere in the meantime, me and Miles will be playing a lot of World of Warcraft. So hopefully we get around to watching Violet Evergarden somewhere in that time. But thank you so much again for listening. Like, comment, subscribe. It helps us beat whatever algorithm is out there. So join the forces today and defeat the YouTube algorithm or the Spotify algorithm, wherever you're listening. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.